Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. Very gloomy news cycle, to say the least. Um, we will address this and then move on to the larger issues. RFK announcing that he's dropping his bid as a Democrat, a Democratic challenger to Biden, and running as an independent and there we also have a new speaker, a Republican speaker of the House, Scalise. Your thoughts?
I watched the RFK live stream, and he was genuinely upset that he has been forced to leave the Democratic Party.
Hmm.
However, when he talked about his platform, it was very obvious that the Democrats have been either lying or kidding themselves about the idea that he is going to pull votes from Trump. He had a very heavy environmental agenda, corporations paying more taxes. It was a very traditional Democratic agenda. The
Oh, wait,
only
let me
thing
just
he,
interject one thing. You are 100% correct. A traditional Democratic agenda before the squad, before Bernie,
yes,
and before it became, let's just say, Meshuggah, as we relate
yeah,
to our, yes,
that's why I said Democratic and not left wing or liberal. It's
psychotic. Yes,
Yeah,
there you go.
it's a traditional Democratic agenda. The only thing that he has, sort of distanced himself from the Democrats on is he's calling for closing the border. And more Democrats are starting to turn to that now that New York and Chicago and California are all seeing the results of the migrants showing up. So there's no way, if he's running on this platform, that he is going to pull Republican votes. He is
There's no. I'll go.
basically,
I'll go one better on that one because you're 100% right. Right on as always, Dr. Lopkin. I actually think it's even worse than that. I think it articulates how far Biden and the crackpots, the current crackpots in the Democratic Party, I think it really is going to articulate how far they have strayed.
yes, he is a traditional centrist
Definitely.
Democrat, the same way his father was, the same way his uncle was. And something else that came up in this speech, he was thanking the people that have been working on his campaign. Now, the media has made a big deal about the fact that the Kennedy family is not backing him. That is not true. The next generation of the Kennedy family is strongly behind him. They're working on his campaign. It's the old school Kennedys, the ones who
The
were
irrelevant
beholden to the
Kennedys,
party. Yes,
the
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 ones who are
yes.
beholden to the party that are not supporting him.
Yeah, like Carolyn Kennedy, the genius is so dumb that she couldn't even win an election in Massachusetts. A real genius, yes.
Yeah, so he I think he's going to have a good showing. He's going to
Huge
pull
impact.
almost completely from Biden. And yeah, depending on what No Labels does, because that's another important thing. He's not affiliated with No Labels. So there may be another third party candidate.
I think he should try his best to affiliate with no labels, but that's my humble opinion. Only my humble opinion. What I don't have a humble opinion on is the Nazi Ivy League, Harvard in particular, as well as Black Lives Matter. Let me just address Black Lives Matter. Any liberal Jew out there that has their stupid BLM sign in their front lawn, you need to throw it out immediately. Either you're naive or you're a dumb shit.
Yeah,
And in terms of the Nazi Ivy League, Harvard basically giving a wink and nod to anti-Israeli and anti-Semitic support slash protests on their very hallowed grounds. Is that shit over with? I mean, in terms of the high esteem Harvard has done everything they can to destroy their image. Not just because I'm conservative, but what their practices and admissions, all the above. They're essentially squandering their numero uno status.
Yeah, Harvard alumni have actually come out against the school
Please.
for not taking a stronger stand against the 30 student organizations that put out a statement saying that Israel deserved the
Hmm.
massacre of
They
Hamas.
deserve their babies
Yeah,
being beheaded.
let's let's make something perfectly clear. This has nothing to do with freeing Palestine. This is anti-Semitism, pure and simple. You don't behead babies to make a political statement. You don't kidnap the elderly and attack civilians to make a political statement.
Some of them Holocaust survivors, by the way. I
Yes,
just want to throw that in there. Yeah, and by the way, when you talk about freeing Palestine, let's just cut the shit right now. Without Hamas, they'd probably be well on their road for a very good two-stage solution. It's Hamas that have effed
never
things up, not
never
Israel.
never mind on the road. We would have had a two-state solution already. But the Palestinians decided that no, they were not going to agree to stop killing Jews.
And
Israel
putting
pulled
Hamas as their leadership.
yes, they elected the terrorists
There you
as
go.
their leaders. Israel pulled out of the Gaza Strip in 2005. It has been governed by Palestinians and Hamas in particular for over 18 years. All they had to do was agree to not kill Jews, and they would have had a state already.
And they probably would have had a fairly decent economy. And let me explain that because Israel is a very robust high tech sector in tops in the world. Okay, in the top tier of any world global analysis or assessment, and they could have been beneficiaries. And they don't talk that many Palestinians have daily passes to work in Israel, but it's
Yes,
always the no. It's been going on for a blame the Jews. When
right.
in doubt, blame the Jews. And here we go. No, it's not Israel's fault. It is the Hamas, and I think many Palestinians probably have a lot of animosity towards Hamas. How does that sound, Dr.
Well, you
Lopkin?
know what? If that's true, it's time they stepped up. It's time they actually told the Israeli Defense Forces that are going in, "Oh, okay, you don't need to kill everybody. The hostages are located right there."
100%. It's time for the Palestinians to step up to the plate. Well done. Stop doing the wink of the nod, playing both sides of the coin. You're either in or you're out. End of story. But there is also, you talk about Harvard, our friends to the north under Trudeau, their Canadian broadcasting system basically sent out a memo, so to speak, that basically articulated their desire not to use the term terrorist when referring to Hamas. Are you effing nuts? What is wrong with you? Are you out of your mind?
This is absolutely inexcusable. There is no other title for Hamas. They are terrorists. Freedom fighters do not kill babies. They do not
Behead babies
behead
and old
children.
people
Yes.
and rape women and parade them naked. No, that's not freedom fighters. They are disgusting pig terrorists. And shame on you, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. You are despicable.
And, the level of stupidity here is mind-boggling. I have seen signs. One group was posting a sign, "Queers for Palestine," with the Palestinian flag. Really? If you tried to live there, Hamas would behead you.
Yeah,
You
it's
it's like
Yeah, it's a drunkenness of liberalism. They have no effing clue. In fact, Israel is the only place, if you're gay, that you would not just be able to live, you would be able to thrive. And let me ask you a deeper question. Could this disaster, this disgusting event, in the end, possibly articulate and have the world, maybe the world that wants to hear, or maybe didn't want to hear not too long ago, the differences between barbarism and Israel, with all their faults, by the way.
Yeah, nobody's saying that Israel is perfect.
No,
But
but I think
again,
this
none,
just shines some light on the dark contrast between animalism and a functioning democracy.
yes, and part of the problem is that difference because every time Hamas or Hezbollah has attacked, Israel has targeted the military installation where the missiles came from. They have targeted the few people responsible for that attack, not the
Even though
organization.
Hamas puts the missiles in civilian
Yes,
communities, we must
they were
we
not
must add,
going
yes.
after they were not going after the organization as a whole. They were focused on just taking care of that problem because the Israelis don't want to kill civilians. They don't want to resort to barbarism. Now this has changed.
Oh no,
Now
it's gloves off.
they are going to wipe
Full bore.
Hamas off the map.
No, full bore. And if they don't do this, no, if they don't, okay, and I've heard this from several experts, if Israel loses or doesn't have a resounding victory, it will exponentially change the power landscape in the Middle East. They must have a decisive and overwhelming victory. Anything less than that, it is a defeat.
Yeah, and it's more than just Israel involved in this, whether or not people realize it. Because if Hamas ends up being victorious, it essentially means that Iran is the power in the Middle East. Well, that's not just bad for Israel. It's bad for Saudi Arabia. It's bad for the United Arab Emirates. It's bad for all of the countries that signed the Abraham Accords. And it's really bad for the United States.
I do not think Israel will lose.
I don't think so either, quite frankly. Right now, they are fighting a war on three fronts.
Three fronts.
And, and I honestly believe they will still be able to succeed. We have already said we are rearming the Iron Dome. We are providing them with weapons. And let's face it, providing Israel with weapons is the absolute least that we should be required to do. Because while most places are not reporting this, American weapons are being used by Hamas. And they are specifically the American weapons that were abandoned in Afghanistan. They have gotten to Hamas.
Of course they did. Anyway, everyone knew that. And yes, and I think when the dust settles, I believe also that this is not going to bode well for the Biden himself and his administration. Even when you have Blinken in the midst, in the opening salvos of this bloody, barbaric engagement, he literally was on a show, a news show, a legitimate news show, and basically said, yes, this is terrible, but we still cannot take our eyes off global warming. If it was a B movie, I'd say, okay, fine. No, I'd walk out. I'd say, this is impossible. That could never be a Secretary of State. Literally, it happened. It shows you how incompetent the entire administration is. And also, let's face it, Biden did step up to the plate yesterday, kind of, but he also was having a barbecue on Saturday and was basically AWOL for 48 hours. And they basically put a cap on anything he did at by past 10 o'clock. So, not exactly Kennedy esque. is it?
No, definitely not. I mean, let's face it. It took after he made a very good speech on Saturday, and then he went to a barbecue, and it took him 2 days enough to be able to put another coherent thought together. So, I mean, this is why he was quiet. Blinken is an abject moron.
A
Blinken
moron.
has Blinken has been out there saying, "Well, we have no evidence that Iran is behind this."
And
The
there's
what?
no evidence that the 6 million that we gave them had any play in this. Yeah, smoke another joint and basically, please resign for the good of the country. Please, just please go away.
The Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal both have sources inside Hezbollah and Hamas that went on the record saying, yes, we had meetings with Iran, they helped us coordinate, and our own State Department doesn't know what's going on. I mean, thank God Wall Street Journal and Washington Post broke the
Well,
story.
isn't that really the crux of it? Wall Street Journal, other publications, some not friendly to Israel. How do they have more information than the Biden administration and Blinken and the other morons group of Tweedledee Tweedledum? I mean, I think, quite frankly, we don't want to own up to the fact that the policy in Iran, there was a blip in that with Trump, but since Obama has been appeasement, um, empowering Iran on many areas. Even this thing about, yeah, maybe not directly Obama's fault, but when they hacked into a drone, instead of launching a cruise missile, or somehow getting rid of this the drone, we let it land, and guess who's number two in drone technology? Gee, Gomer, surprise, surprise. So yes, I
Yeah,
think in a
part
lot of ways we go ahead.
part of it is definitely the policy of appeasement, but the problem goes even deeper than that. It is a problem intrinsic in our intelligence operations because we have never had good intelligence operations in the Middle East. I distinctly remember a report saying that during the first Iraq war, our intelligence community was getting information from CNN.
That doesn't give me a lot of sense of security or confidence, but doesn't surprise me. And by the way, back then CNN was at least a credible news agency. I wouldn't get information from CNN on how to change my oil. Uh, Speaking of reliable or competent, Talib, one of the squad, refuses. And there was an interview. She was just being, by a liberal press member, being hounded on her way to an elevator, and she wouldn't say anything. And of course, the bully that she is becomes the victim. Isn't that part of the liberal woke playbook? She was being, yes, aggressively asked if she would condemn beheaders and killers of children, which they are. And she didn't say anything, and then she hung her head and had to be consoled. I don't know if I can get through this podcast by someone because she was distraught.
Yeah, she was
Oh,
just, you know
cry
what?
me a river,
Tough.
cry me a river. What's
She
that?
made her, I said tough. She made
Yeah,
her bed. Now she has to lie in it. And the squad is starting to learn that. AOC actually split from the squad and started to condemn the Palestinians. Why? Because her district has a large Jewish population. And she knows if she sticks to the squad's left wing bullshit about backing Palestine, she is going to lose in next year's election.
we can only hope. But also, speaking of the squad, there's calls, and even from Democrats, for them not to resign, but to be expelled. So I think it has blown up in their face. It's a bridge too far.
It is. It
Your
is.
thoughts?
It is about time that the Democrats took control back from their party. You know, last week we
But
talked
couldn't
about
this be? Couldn't this be a basically enabler of that to happen?
It could be. I mean, remember last week we were talking about Hillary Clinton made comments about deprogramming Trump supporters and how it was horrible that this small group of MAGA extremists was taking control of the party, and she said it was the tail wagging the dog. That's exactly what the squad has been doing for years. The squad has been the tail wagging the dog, and it is time they were put in their place.
I think it's going to happen. I think it was sexy, cool, groovy, so to speak. And I think in the face of babies being beheaded, not to condemn that, you're despicable. No matter if you're liberal, I'm talking a liberal observer, a woke observer, it's just a bridge too far.
No, if you are backing what Hamas has done, if you are trying to blame Israel for this, you are an anti-Semite.
Thank you.
Period.
Let's call it
Period.
what it is.
Yes. Period. Full stop. There is no excuse. There is no liberal agenda that would justify this. It is anti Semitism, pure and simple.
Agreed. And we talked about the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. We also have an anti Semitic, anti Israeli news outlet right here in the good old America. That's MSNBC. That was kind of playing both sides of the fence. They had a member of the American Defamation League on who was an ultra liberal, so they thought it was going to be someone that was Jewish but kind of supported their less than stellar record on Judaism and Israel. Although I have to point out, Andrea Mitchell, a Jewish person, is also to blame. Never speaks up, puts her own liberal pig ideology ahead of her Judaism. I find her reprehensible and disgusting. Anyone that was really Jewish would resign. So anyway, they had an ADL member on MSNBC. They were, starting touting their bullshit about, yeah, well, whatever, and he goes, "What script are you reading? What are you saying? There's babies being beheaded and there's no room for this bullshit." He kind of read him the riot act and I loved it on live
He
TV.
he did, and it was about time.
About
He
friggin' time.
it is, we've said this before, but it is time that the Jewish community realizes the danger that the
They're in.
liberals have been to them. And they need to step up, they need to speak out. It is about time that we started teaching history in the schools, because you've got these college kids thinking Palestine is these victims, and that is simply not true. We
And then,
need
whoa,
to
whoa, 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 whoa. No, no, no. Let me just go one step further. Okay, there are two sides of the argument getting back to the creation of Israel. Okay, you
yes,
can make some arguments. Hold on. But it's always left out. Hamas runs the, if you will, territories. Okay. Point number two that always gets overlooked: Israel, to the surprise of Arafat, the SOB, corrupt pig. Okay. In the early '90s, and Clinton was just pissed. Israel gave them more than they even asked. It could have been an easy two-state solution, but they declined. So you need to put that in the damn history book before you stop
exactly.
continuously blaming Israel. Okay, your Harvard University, so-called Mecca of higher learning, well, maybe you're not. Okay, maybe you have an agenda that's anti-Semitic and anti-Israeli. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
And let's not forget, Arafat was the leader of the Palestinians at that point, and prior to the Palestinians electing him, he was head of the PLO, another terrorist. If you want to be taken seriously, you don't put terrorists in charge of your government.
And he was not only a terrorist and a murderer, but he was a corrupt terrorist and murderer. He was living in Paris like in five-star hotels when his people were living in shitholes. Yes, he was. Um,
Yes, it is
so,
not
anyways,
it is not Israel who has been oppressing the Palestinians for the
it's
last
Hamas.
30 years. It is Hamas. Before Hamas, it was the PLO. They are being oppressed by their own people.
Yes, and their own people or leadership who doesn't have their own interests at heart, but are being manipulated at this point from Iran, but in other cases from other players in the Middle East. So they're marching to the drum of other power brokers and not listening to their own people. So you need to discuss that, Harvard. Okay, please do that, and maybe get your reputation back. But
And
there are issues.
I
Go
do
ahead.
like there are starting to see signs of pushback, and these liberals in college are going to get a rude awakening when they come into the real world, because the head of the NYU Student Bar Association issued a statement supporting Palestine and blaming Israel for all of this. Well,
Surprise, surprise.
guess what? She's about to graduate, and the job that she was expecting, the law firm pulled their
Good.
offer from
Please
her.
do. Yeah, tit for tat. Not only just on but doing that to conservatives. Yeah, do goodbye. And she's probably a spoiled little entitled brat that doesn't know jack shit about the Palestinian or Middle East issue. It was just cool and woke for her to do that. Good. Work at Walmart for a couple of years, get some real world experience, and then express some real world views. How does that sound, you spoiled brat? Um, now, uh, we also are somewhat to blame, not for this conflict, but to creating the seeds, the $6 million dollars for the basically the bribe to release the hostages. Obama basically, who knows how many pallets of cash he gave Iran. But there's also an issue of when are these Harvard geniuses in the State Department going to kick Turkey out of NATO? What the hell are they doing in NATO? Please tell me.
Yeah,
Turkey used to be a pretty middle of the road, not very let's just say religiously or a secular society, and they've already condemned Israel before anything's happened. We give them state of the art technology. Surprise, surprise! I wonder where it ends up. No, I wonder how. Wonder why. Get them the hell out of NATO, and
yeah,
they have them cross developing our highest tech airplanes like the F-35. Part of the build process and design process was in Turkey. Bon voyage, okay?
no, what's going on with Turkey is, again, absolutely inexcusable. We have uh, aircraft carrier groups heading towards, they were already in the Middle East. Now they're heading towards the Gaza Strip. The President Erdogan, I can never
Yes, it's
pronounce his name
Oregon. Yes.
properly. Erdogan, um, was criticizing us for sending the aircraft carriers, saying, they're going to massacre Palestinians. First of all, we have not committed any troops, any planes. We have not committed anything other than block other parties from interfering. Now, even if we do go in, the massacre has already happened.
Yes. If the West was smart, which is not, those days have long left the station. That train has long left the station. The European Union would cut Turkey out of it, and we would get rid of them, force them out of NATO, and let them stand on their own pathetic ass.
Yeah, Turkey,
That's my
even
little 2 cents on that.
even all the time that Turkey has been in NATO, they have never been an American ally. They have always been suspect, and it is time to get them out of NATO.
Yeah, 1961 is over. Okay, they no longer serve a purpose. They're at our detriment and not to our behalf. Bon voyage, and it's all been great. Thank you very much. But we have to also be fair. Israel, the Mossad, always known as being one step ahead of everyone. This is a huge security blunder.
Yes,
No
this
way
was
around it. No
this
way
was
around it.
this was a huge security blunder on their part, just as big as the security blunder we made missing 9/11. Once the situation calms down, they are going to investigate. We'll find out how they missed this, how we missed this, how everybody missed this. There has been a lot of talk about possibly their human intel has been compromised. Not that they have traitors within their midst, but that the enemy has identified operatives and therefore was able to keep them from getting information. But this is
Well,
going to be a major investigation.
this will be a
However,
9/11
yes,
investigation. It is a huge
however,
screw up.
this is not the time to
No,
investigate.
it is not the time.
The time is after Hamas has been wiped out and the borders are secure. And
There you go.
speaking of securing borders, by the way, in the last year, 139 Islamic terrorists on the terror watch list have been caught coming through our open southern border. What do you think they're coming here to do?
To go to their graduate program at MIT. Am I right? No, maybe not.
No, no, they're not coming here to go visit Disney World. They
No.
are coming to do here what they just did to Israel.
And if it ever happens under Biden's watch, I don't care if Colonel Clown runs against him, it is game over. Am I not correct? If by God it happens in America in the next year, he's finished. Am I not correct?
Yes,
Go
that
on.
would be. I mean, at this point, I don't think he has a shot of having a second term, regardless. But
Yeah,
no,
I get that.
that would be the death knell for his administration.
It's all over. Yes. And finally, Senator Graham basically, I kind of like what he says, maybe not in particular, but overall, that he's the first one in upper leadership, we'll just leave it. Biden administration certainly hasn't. That's called out Iran and basically suggested if if there's a direct link, we should bomb their oil fields. I'm not against it.
No,
I'm sick of treating them with kid gloves. Everyone knows who's to blame, right? So let's cut the shit and stop treating them like they're a member of the global community, which they're not, and stop treating them with as a military equal, which they are not, because they may soon to be. Let's just treat them or give them what they deserve, and all they respect is power and authority anyway. I am not against it.
no. You know what? We need to take on Iran. Doesn't
Definitely.
necessarily have to be militarily at first. One, there are sanctions against Iran that are
That
not
are not
being
being, yes.
enforced. We need to enforce every sanction. Two, we need to impose more sanctions. We need to completely cut them off from the international money supply. We need to stop all sales of their oil.
And we need to
We
stop
need
their nuclear program,
we
not
need
by
to
some bullshit, whatever program or whatever, something probably dreamt up at Harvard in the Kennedy School of political ideology. But let's just cut the shit and get rid of their nuclear program militarily. And if there's a direct link between this and them, okay, what's going on in the Middle East right now, and them, I say military force is in order. Let's just cut the shit.
Yeah,
You're just
and
going
you
to
know
wait
what?
and wait and wait and wait and wait, and then they're going to become a nuclear power, and then we're going to say, just like North Korea, gee, we can't do anything about it now.
Yeah, and there's no reason to hide it. We should actually tell Iran that we are coming. Get your people out of your nuclear facilities because we are about to blow them up. Get
Yes.
your people out of the oil fields because we are about to blow them up,
A
and
hundred
do it.
percent. Stop screwing around because we're going to have to do it one of these days. And when we wait and wait forever, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Or they will have the nuclear blackmail option. So let's just get it done and cut the shit and stop putting your head in the sand. How does that sound for a conclusion?
That's it. We need to take action. Israel needs to take action. This is what happens when you try to appease terrorist states.
Yep, Munich 2023. How does that sound?
Yes. And that's something else. This was all predictable. We saw this in World War II. We've seen it with other terrorist powers. Appeasement does not work.
Yeah, but goes beyond appeasement. This is actually empowering, okay?
Yes.
Chamberlain never sent Hitler money. I mean, what are you smoking? Are you kidding me? I mean, Obama first sent him 100 billion, whatever it was, pallets full of cash. Like, who is in charge here? Like, what are you smoking? They were on their knees with Trump, by the way. And what happens? Now they're back in the game. Surprise, surprise, in only 2.5 years.
Well, again, I'm going to go back to the quote from Robert Gates that Joe Biden has been on the wrong side of every foreign policy decision for 4 decades.
A record
His
that's hard to beat.
his record is unblemished now.
There you go. Well, a very heated discussion, but I think rightfully so, Dr. Lobkin. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And that concludes this edition of Carnivore Bites. Again, a heated carnivore bite, but I hope it for our listeners that they certainly, I believe, have to understand because this is a very serious situation, and this is the kind of thing that hasn't happened in decades.
Yes. And for any listener that may still be unclear about all of this, let's just sum this up. We stand with Israel.
There you go. Dittos, dittos, dittos. And well, thank you, Dr. Lopkin. Our listeners can access us as they always have and also give their input on maybe today's show or others, correct?
Yes, let's hear what you have to say. You can reach us through the Facebook Carnivore Radio page. You can reach us at xvadio.com/connect. And of course, you can hear every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Carnivore Radio website, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
Well, Dr. Lopkin, your insights are always great, but today they're even that much better as they needed to be. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you then.